Hey everybody, my name's Jason and welcome to the Freedom Adventure. Right now, the Freedom Adventure is basically a channel that's somewhat dedicated, or at least at this point, to converting an old 2000 model Ford E450 van, or rather an ambulance, into a miniature Class C motorhome. Now, we started this journey about a year ago, and it's been a lot of work, and I just released a video not too long ago outlining kind of what all that we've done here in this last year or so. So I urge you guys to go check that out. It's actually a pretty cool video. If you've ever had any thoughts at all about doing a conversion or anything like this, it's excellent information to get your hands on. So one of the reasons that we're building this motor coach is to be able to do some traveling. And first and foremost, the traveling that we really want to do is we want to go ahead, my wife and I, and purchase some property down in southeast Oklahoma. Now, the areas that we've been looking at, and there's a couple, but where we keep finding ourselves migrating back to is in the Moyers Antlers area of southeast Oklahoma. This area is approximately 3 hours away from here. And where here is around the Oklahoma City area. So we took a day yesterday, we ignored everything, we loaded up the Jeep, and we headed down to southeast Oklahoma to take a look and see what this property was about. And you can get property anywhere, but we're after a fairly specific style property. You see, we don't just want to buy something in a tourist attraction. There's places in Oklahoma like Broken Bow, for instance. It's beautiful, there's a lot of cool stuff to do, but it's definitely a tourist attraction, and that's not what we want. What we are looking to do is actually get away from everything, go off grid. And when I mean off grid, I know it sounds extreme, but I'm talking no electricity, no internet, no nothing, no utilities, whatever. It's if you're not self-contained, you've got a bit of a problem. We met the realtor there yesterday morning about 10 o'clock. And so it took us roughly about 2 hours and 45 minutes to get down there. Not too bad of a drive. I mean, you've got to do something during the day. It may as well be driving somewhere beautiful, right? So that's what we did. Now, when we got there, we followed her, and that was the beginning of a pretty cool little journey, actually. I had a blast. As a matter of fact, it's been a long time since I've had that kind of fun, to be honest with you. So we had a list of about 3 properties we wanted to go check out. Now, when you're looking at property, it's especially out here, guys, because it's wooded, and I mean super, super wooded. There's hills everywhere. Everything's on a grade. There's boulders the size of, actually, quite frankly, the size of this ambulance that's sitting here in front of me right now. The boulder situation there was just totally sick. It was awesome. My wife and I have landscaped our backyard using boulders, so this is just like kind of a little slice of heaven when we go down there and see this kind of scenery. And not only that, but this kind of scenery could actually be ours if we choose to move forward with this. So the place that we're looking at is called the Kiamichi Wilderness, and it's not state-owned, it's actually privately owned, and you have to have property there in order to enter, or you have to have at least somebody's permission in order to go ahead and come onto the land. And there are no shortages of just awesome, awesome trails to go on. So if you're a side-by-side person, if you like that life, man, this place is just absolutely perfect for you. We don't have a side-by-side yet, but that's another day's project. So I don't know exactly what I was expecting when I started thinking of off-grid. Quite frankly, I've never done it before. I just didn't know. And what I found was absolutely beautiful plots of land. Like I said, the only thing that makes them off-grid anyway is just the lack of utilities. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is you have to come self-contained. And if you're going to build a cabin out there, you've got to be self-contained. Just somewhat like what we've built, the Freedom Adventure, our little ambulance camper conversion that we've been working on here for the last year. Matter of fact, the reason that we've been doing this is so we could actually use our ambulance conversion as a tiny home while we go ahead and hand build a small cabin there on our property. So anyway, we met at a convenience store and we went ahead, and like I said, it took 2 hours, 45 minutes to get there. So we hopped in the Jeep and we followed our realtor, who actually was also in a Jeep, and we drove out to the mountain. Now, when we get there, we had to check in through a gate, and it took roughly from the time we got to the gate to the time we got to the hard road, it was about, I'm going to say about 20 minutes worth of driving to get there. And in order to get to the first property, it took us total from the city of Antlers about 30 minutes drive time to go from Antlers to the first property that we looked at. So the first property, there was actually two ways to access it. One from the bottom of the hill, and then the road curves up top, and then you can actually access it from the top of the hill. The land was beautiful. When we're standing there at the base of it, and you could kind of look up it, it looks like it's just going straight up. As a matter of fact, from where the road is, the access road, looking up the property, it just didn't really look like there was a whole lot of places a guy could set up a place to park an RV at. Little disappointed in that. And also there's a trail. And when you have trails out in the Kiamichi Wilderness that go through your property, you can't block those off. It's part of the covenants. They want everybody to be able to use all of the land. So if you've got a trail that goes through your property, you might as well just get used to the way that side-by-sides sound, because you're probably going to be hearing quite a bit of it. Matter of fact, yesterday we heard quite a bit of it while we were down there. At that point, I was a little bit disgruntled in the property, but when we went around to the other side of it and we looked at it from the top looking down, I fell in love. This property was amazing, and the scenery was just breathtaking. So this is one of the properties. This is the second property that we're looking at here today. And out of the two that we've looked at, the first one had a trail that ran right through the middle of it, and it was also divided by another road as well. Not sure that's probably going to be the way that we go, but I am definitely liking this. As you can see back there, you can see the two Jeeps that we arrived in. Looking around here, it looks like we've got a little bit of a ledge over there, kind of looking down. Let's go check that out. Boulders as far as the eye could see here. Wow. It was just absolutely astonishing. Now, we did go ahead and check out other properties on the mountain. So we just went ahead and we followed our realtor. And these roads were no joke. As a matter of fact, getting up to the point to the first property that we went to, it really wasn't that bad. It was off-road for sure, but it was not bad. And I don't think the ambulance would have any problem getting up to that point. However, once past that, there were some trails that you're not going to want to try unless you're in a side-by-side or at absolute minimum, a four-wheel drive vehicle. By the time we got to the third property, actually it was either the third or the fourth, I can't remember, but we were probably an hour away from the city of Antlers just to get to the property. So it's like to the base of the mountain from Antlers, it's roughly about 8 miles is what I clocked it off at. So from that point up to the very top that we got, it was probably an hour drive at anywhere between about 10 miles an hour up to about 30 to 40 miles an hour, depending on the trail that we were on. And guys, no doubt, if you don't have a four-wheel drive, you don't even want to mess with this. You are very, very far up there, and you are in territory that a regular automobile like my wife's car, or say like a Camry or Mini Cooper or something like that, these are vehicles that will not get there. Trust me on that. Like I said, we spent the bulk of the day yesterday looking at these properties, and we came back pretty starry-eyed. As a matter of fact, we were pretty impressed with it. There's a lot more information we've got to find out about the property before we go ahead and put an offer in, if that's what we choose to do. However, whether it be this property or some other property, this is definitely the direction that the Freedom Adventure is going to take. Once this camper conversion is complete, this is the direction we're going to go. At some point or another, the channel is going to hopefully revert from the ambulance camper conversion over to building the tiny home on an off-grid property. And it's going to be much the same as the ambulance camper conversion when it comes to for instance, the electrical. We're going to have solar and we're going to have a battery bank. Water supply. You bring your own, or you go ahead and you have a rainwater collection system on your home. You do a purification process, and there you go. Restrooms, well, there's a lot of different options out there for you. There's the obvious, there's septic. It's pretty rocky soil. I don't know what septic looks like out there. There's composting toilets, and there's other options as well. But the whole point of this is just to kind of look at it and go, is this something that you yourself could do? Does an off-grid cabin appeal to you? I'd love to hear your comments on it, so go ahead and throw a comment down. Say if you love the idea, if you hate it. I'm kind of curious to see what y'all think. So anyway, that's what we did yesterday. And guys, it was a literal blast. Like I said, there's no doubt about it. If we ended up buying property out there, at least until we ended up building the cabin, it's worth owning the property just to have access to the Kiamichi Wilderness. We don't have a side-by-side yet, but man, peer pressure is crazy, and I think it would only be a matter of time before we ended up buying one. Matter of fact, we're already looking at them, I'm not going to lie. But that's a story for another day. But I'm curious, what do you think? Is off-grid living for you? Do you think you can do it? I kind of wonder myself, but like I said, when we built this ambulance camper conversion, we did so with off-grid living in mind. So at least up front, this will be the perfect vehicle to live in while we're out there and we're building our cabin. But once the cabin's built, it too has to be off-grid. You got to have your own propane. You've got to figure out a water situation. What do you guys think? Could you do it? Is it something you're interested in? Keep watching the channel because ultimately this is the direction this is going. And I'd like to take all y'all along with me, and I think you'll have a good time watching the cabin build and kind of watching how we act in the transition between living on-grid and living off-grid. I'd love to hear any comments that you guys might have, good or bad. Maybe you're already off-grid and you've got some information to pass, man. That would be great. I'll take it. But that's all I've got here for you today, folks. I hope you've had a good time watching the video. I've had a great time making it. Hope to see you next time, and happy adventures, guys. We'll see you then.